All right. I want to go on a little bit of a rant. The other day I was just walking through downtown. I happened to notice, shit. There's even, more homeless people there now compared to what it was, say, the last month that I went there. And I was thinking it's like, truly, man. When the government tells the people that well, the economy is booming right now because that's what they'll tell you, right? They'll tell you, nothing is wrong, everything is okay right now, and there's nothing to be concerned about. But yet, meanwhile, at the same time, the government is, preparing these doomsday bunkers, and then there's the celebrities, say, for instance, Elon Musk, um, Mark Zuckerberg, Andrew Tate, some of these movie celebrities as well, influencers on social media, they're out there buying these doomsday bunkers and are either building new homes on top of these bunkers or building the bunkers, underground right next to their homes they already have. But yet, meanwhile, they're telling you, the public, there's nothing to be worried about right now. The economy is booming, everything is okay right now. But yet, meanwhile, they're out there, putting these bunkers in the ground like no tomorrow. It's like, well, wait a second. If there's nothing for us to worry about, well, why the hell are you guys spending, billions of taxpayer dollars on, putting these bunkers down there? Which, by the way, here's a fun fact: they're not for me and you. No, they're for these, the wealthy upper class of the society. Of course, here or there they'll bring, a couple servants with them, like doctors and some workmen, for maintenance and what they need down in the bunkers, of course. But by and large, the people that's going to be housed in these bunkers when shit hits the fan are these, political people and, high up influencers and, top tier businessmen. They're going to be the ones who are, hiding away here. And, we even see this in the Bible. I believe that's Revelation, the 6th chapter, which I don't have it in front of me, but, nearly paraphrasing it, it says, that when they all saw Christ coming on the clouds, they said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sat upon the horse. Now, what does the hills and the mountains and the rocks represent? It represents how they have these bunkers inside of these mountains all across the country and all over the world, right? They're going to be, when they see Christ returning with that massive army, they're going to be hauling their ass to get into those doomsday bunkers, because they're going to think that they're going to be, safe down there, from Christ. So they're going to be like, fall on us, have these rocks fall on us to hide us, from the face of him that sits on the throne. Right, so it's metaphorically speaking for them, hiding away under these mountains and these bunkers that they have. Like, to say, for instance, there's a verse in Amos, I believe it's Amos chapter 9, verse 2, or verse 3, but it says, though they be hid from my sight at the bottom of the sea, I'll send my serpent, and he will bite them. Now, the serpent represents the Leviathan, but that's a different topic. But the reason I quote the verse is it shows that this is talking about modern day time, right? We have submarines. Like, shit, I was just watching a documentary about, some of these military submarines, man. And, there's submarines out there that can literally wipe out an entire country with just one submarine. And again, I'm being serious when I say that, because they have nuclear warheads, stockpiled on these things, so they can shoot one missile. And I believe it has up to like 14 different warheads on one missile. And, when the missile gets high up in the atmosphere, it opens up and then it shoots off the warheads in different directions. So one missile from a submarine can basically wipe out Miami and Atlanta, among other cities, with just one nuclear missile. And that's from one submarine. And then they have multiple other shots that they can shoot off as well. America has this capability, so does Russia as well. So people out there, thinking, we're not in serious times, nothing ever happens, right? Like, I watch this guy, Brad, right? Brad and Kelly, right? From the YouTube channel called Full Spectrum Survival, which I highly recommend everybody check them out. Why they don't know, about this conspiracy stuff. They do know a lot about, world events and, stuff like that. But, I give them credit where it's due. I go there and get current news every day, about what's happening in the world. They do a good job at sharing the daily, news to pay attention to. But I am quoting him because he always says, there's people in the comment section that are like, well, nothing ever happens, right? Nothing ever happens. It's just same old, same old. And I think to myself, it's like, shit, for the people that say, nothing ever happens, it's like, damn, if I was to go back to the year 2015 or 2016 and tell them, hey guys, in 5 or 6 years or 4 years from now, there's going to be a worldwide crisis, quote unquote, read between the lines, and the entire world is going to be shut down and everybody is going to have to stay inside. They're not going to be able to go out and socialize with other people. Kind of like what happened with the Black Death back in the 1300s. Right? People had to isolate themselves away from people, because if they caught the plague, that's your ass right there. You can't be healed from that, back in those times. That's where they get the, if you ever seen that mask they have that has like the bird beak on it, that they used back during the plague. And here's a fun fact, by the way. The reason those face masks were designed with the beak designed on the front was because they actually put like flowers and incense into the cone of the mask, and it was believed that the incense and the good smells of the flowers will be able to fight off the disease from infecting the doctor. That's why they wore those masks back in the 1300s when the Black Death was being spread. Just a fun fact. But anyway, it's astonishing to me. So people are there like nothing ever happens. But yet, meanwhile, that same person, if I was to go back, to 2016 and tell them, hey, in a couple of years, the whole world's going to be shut down. You won't be able to go buy or sell anything. You have to be locked in your own house. Among other things. Oh, you're going to have to put a face diaper on, right, as Mina Sharek would call it, right, a mask. They look at me like I was crazy. Nothing like that could ever happen in today's day and age, with how advanced we are, dealing with our medicine and, the control the government has over the borders and, all of that taken into consideration. There's no way any of that could ever happen in today's time, in the 21st century, and lo and behold, 2020 rolls around, and the entire world got shut down. And yet, there's still the same dumbass is still sitting there saying, oh, nothing ever happens, nothing ever happens. It's like, sure, for your dumbass, nothing ever happens, because, you're probably sitting there, on your ass all day collecting, government checks in the mail. Meanwhile, people like myself, actually have problems. We're sitting here suffering, right? Living on $10 a week, eating shit food. Well, meanwhile, you're a dumbass. Like, say for instance, I know somebody who used to get $5,000 a month in disability checks from the government. Think about that, $5,000 a month. And yet the U.S. government won't give me $300 or $400 a month just so I could feed myself. And then at the same time, they're sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. It's not even a member, of NATO. Think about that for a second. So here it is. You have a problem with if I try to apply for a disability and get, say, $400 or $500 a month so I can feed myself. That's a problem. I can't get that. But you have no problem with sending, hundreds of billions of dollars to fight a foreign war that has nothing to do with your own country. Think about that. You got dumbasses out here that have no problems, living large, collecting, thousands of dollars in disability checks. But yet, meanwhile, someone like myself asks the government for $400 a month just so I can feed myself. I'm not asking for, enough to go on luxury vacations or, be able to buy another vehicle or a vehicle. I'm not looking to, live large off that. I'm just asking, hey, can I have a few bucks so I can, get the bare necessities that I need, in order to, in order to survive. And that's a problem, right? I can't get that. I can't get that. But I got motherfuckers out here living on, thousands of dollars in disability checks. Meanwhile, I'm busting my ass making $10 an hour, and I have every right to be pissed off about that. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. Surely oppression makes a wise man mad. I'll say it again. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. Surely oppression makes a wise man mad. Right, so IETT, I am pissed off. Right, I have a right to be pissed off about the situation that I'm put in. A real wise man would be pissed off, right? So we as righteous men of God, we have every right to be pissed off at the United States for a whole host of reasons. Another verse that comes to mind is Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 18. It says, he that increases in wisdom, he increases in sorrow. I get pissed off, and I remember that Apostle Ramlob talked about this in one of his live streams before. We'll be, pissed off, and then somebody in the world will ask, well, why are you so mad? Like, what are you so mad about? And it's like, you can't go off on that person. So it's beyond their comprehension, some of the reasons why we're pissed off. Like, say, for instance, man, we know how things are supposed to be according to the scriptures, but then we look at the situation at hand, and that's depressing, right? That's depressing. We know that we're supposed to, as men, we're supposed to have multiple women that we're allowed to deal with, right? We're allowed to marry more than one woman if we want to. We know, according to the Bible, women, their job is not, going out and working a 9 to 5, but they're supposed to be home taking care of the children, cleaning the house, cooking the food, taking care of the laundries, all the other duties around the house. But yet here in the modern world, the woman's out there on the workforce with you as well. And to make matters even worse, she has liberty, she has rights. Right? You're allowed to, a woman's allowed to hit a man, right? A man's not allowed to hit back. But yet, women are out there wanting equal rights. Right? So again, this country is just a massive ball of confusion. That's why the Holy Bible calls this place Babylon. Right? The mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. That's what America is. Right? It also calls it that great city. Right? Say, for instance, one of my favorite verses, Revelation 17, verse 18, the woman you saw is that great city who has dominion over the kings of the earth. And that's America. Right? America is referred to as a woman. Even the Americans call America, they refer to her by a she, right, or a her. That's why in their, the national anthem, they use the words she or her, right? Some people refer to the flag as a her, among other things, right? But everybody, views America as being like a woman, right? As a she or a her. So that's why the Bible uses the terms, right? It calls it a woman, right? It calls the city, the great city, a woman. It compares her to it. But a lot of people won't get that. A lot of dummies out here think that, Babylon's actually like a person or, the church, which that doesn't even make sense to begin with, because the Bible doesn't call the church a woman. The Bible calls the Israelites a woman. Say, for instance, Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2, for I have likened Israel to a comely and delicate woman. Right? So again, it's astonishing the shit that's taking place out here, man. It's astonishing. And, it's not just America, right? People all over the world are fed up and pissed off with the scheme that's going on, right? Because we're seeing it, right? We are seeing what's taking place. And for people who have eyes to see, that's why the scriptures speak about blessed are those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Meanwhile, the average person's just like, oh, there's nothing going on. It's just, nothing special. There's nothing special happening in the world today compared to, say, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 50 years ago. It's just, day-to-day life. Everything's okay in the world. Meanwhile, you got two wars breaking out, right? You got a war over in Ukraine right now, You got, of course, the situation over in Israel and Gaza right now. And both of these wars are not stopping anytime soon, right? They're both going to continue for a long, long while to come. And of course, that's going to affect the prices of things over here, in all these other countries around the world. Like, say, for instance, I'll give you an example. I remember last year there was what was it called? A Black Sea grain deal that they reached between Russia and Ukraine, because what was happening was Russia was like bombing the ports of where the ships were gathering the rice grains to transport around the world, or wheat or whatever, right? As they were loading it onto these ships, Russia was either striking the ships or striking the ports, so it makes it very dangerous for the workers there. So they came to an agreement, which I believe it was called the Black Sea Grain Deal or something like that, something along those lines. And it stood for a year, but then the previous year, right, which is now 2023, right? Because when I'm making this video, it's 2024, but the previous year from the grain deal was 2023, right? So in 2023, the deal expired. So now, as of today, it's still an unsafe area, because now they can, legally, they're allowed to continue to hit it with their weaponry, because they, pulled out of the deal, right? It's now expired or pulled out, whatever the details are with it, I'm not sure, but, they're not abiding by that anymore, right? So the whole reason I'm bringing it up is, for a while, and currently it's still going on, the grain can't be transported from country to country, right? Because there's countries out there that rely on Ukraine because they're making a bunch of, wheat and, rice and shit over there that people around the world rely on as their daily, food. So people in, say, for instance, like, Africa, or, India, or, I don't know the in particular countries, but, it's given instances of people around the world who rely on grain being imported from Ukraine to their country to feed them on a daily basis. And that's not happening. So people over there are suffering, over here in the United States. I remember when the war first started, the gas prices were about $5 a gallon. It's like, shit, $5 a gallon. It went down a little bit more now, but, shit over here is still expensive. Like, I remember going to the store. I kid you not, it was literally like $20 for a 6-pack of raw chicken legs. It's like, shit, $20 for that. I remember years ago that used to be like, get that for $12. Say 5 years ago. Now the shit's $20. If I go and buy a energy drink, it's like, damn, $4.50 for it. Now, whereas a few years ago it used to be, $2.50, $3. So again, it all goes up even slightly. Even the Dollar Tree had to increase their prices. And people are still complaining about that shit today. Every time I go there, there's always one or two people complaining to the cashier. It's like, damn, why is everything an extra 25 cents? It all used to be $1 and, 7 cents tax. But now it's, $1.25 and 7 cents tax on it as well. So again, it just demonstrates, the tough time that people are having out here. So yeah, people have every right to be pissed off, at these politicians. Here it is, these politicians are out there, living it up. Like say, for instance, the Congress of the United States, they go on break for, I believe it's like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. They go on break around Christmas time, right? Where they're not, in the house, looking over any type of deals or shit. So here it is, they're going out, likely going to Hawaii, likely going to Italy, going around the world to travel with their families. Meanwhile, us, the average simp, the average peon out here, is struggling to, to get a daily meal. right? Or to feed them and their own families. So again, it shows the leaders of these countries, they don't care about you as the people. Now, they claim they do, but that doesn't actually mean they do. It might be shocking for some people, but there are people out there who will lie to you. As weird as that sounds, and hopefully you see the sarcasm in my voice, but as weird as that sounds, there's actually people in the world who will lie to you for their personal gain. And who is doing that the most? That's people in Congress, right? People in the U.S. government are all liars, and thugs and hypocrites. First of all, government is a religion. The word govern means to have control, right? That's what the word government means, to have control over one, right? Control over the mind. So truly, government is just a gang. That's what government is. It claims to be something else, but that doesn't actually mean that it is something else. Say, for instance, over in Haiti right now, right, which the capital there, I believe it's called Port-au-Prince, the country is being run by gangs, right? There's like two gangs that are in rivalry against one another for power over there. So the country's ran by gangs because their president was taken out by a gang in, I believe it was 2021. He got taken out. So since his death, there's just been gangs running that country right now, right? So they took over as the government over there. Now you ask people, it's like, well, what is different between these gangs and between a government? Like what exactly is different? And they don't know. Well, let's look at the similarities. A gang, they have armed members that follow a code, and if you're caught breaking those codes, their enforcers will come out and punish you. If you owe them money, they'll come out, and hurt you or steal from you. And what does government do? They do the same thing. They have armed enforcers, they call them law enforcement, and they have a code of commands that's given down by the top crooks of the organization. Everybody in the country is forced to go along with these arbitrary commands. And if they don't, they will be captured and killed, or put in a jail cell, or charged a whole large fine for disobeying the leaders of this organization called the U.S. government, which is really just a armed thug gang. That's what government is. So again, the U.S. government is no difference. The U.S. government is a armed gang. They have enforcers, they call them law enforcement, which their job is to make sure everybody does what they're told, and anybody who gets out of line, they will punish them. Sometimes it's by force. Other times they'll steal your money. Other times they'll take you away from your loved ones and put you in a prison cell for all, years of your life. And shit like that. Other times they'll even give people a death penalty. Of course, it, varies on case-by-case basis. But again, in a nutshell, how can one say that government is not a gang? Because it literally fits all the characteristics of an armed thug gang. The only difference is people believe this one is legitimate. Let me give you an example. I was talking to a dumbass a couple weeks ago called MC Nemesis. And again, this is a guy who, you can look him up on YouTube. His channel is called MC Nemesis on X. And, basically what he is, he claims to be in the know, right? He's a Jesus this, Jesus that person, he knows everything there is to know in the world. And this dumbass literally told me when we were having a conversation about the very topic I'm talking about here, he was like, hey, look, I don't care if the U.S. government spies on me. In fact, I'm happy if they spy on me. But I don't want the Chinese government spying on me. Literally, that is his words, not my words. That's what he said. I'll quote him again. He said, I don't care if the U.S. government spies on me because, it's America. So, God bless America. But I don't want the Chinese government spying on me. And, when I asked him, it's like, wait a second, hold on, let me get this straight. So you don't want the Chinese government spying on you, even though they're a million miles away from us. But you do, however, care about the U.S. government, or excuse me, you don't care about the Chinese government. Let me rephrase myself. Now I'm getting myself in a little tongue twister here, excuse me. He says he doesn't care about the U.S. government spying on him, even though he's in the same country as the U.S. government. But he does care about the Chinese government spying on him. That's literally a million miles away from us. It's like, seriously, what? And again, why is he thinking that way? Because he was raised to believe that this is nothing illegitimate with this group, right? There's just a thing called government. We all obey it, or we're charged a lot of money, or we're hurt, or put in a jail cell, and that's just what it is. You were raised with that, so of course it makes sense for you to just repeat that because you don't know anybody, and you don't know any better. That again, that's the ignorance of the average person. They just believe what they're told because that's how they were raised. They look down upon a foreign ideology that goes against the belief that they were raised with. And then they got this other dumbass Jill, right, which stands for Jesus is Lord. His YouTube channel is called Rebuke and Reprove. And I was having a conversation with him about Romans the 13th chapter, and he was saying that's talking about obeying the government, which I disagree, because if you read the chapter in context, it's actually talking about the ministers that God sets up over his churches, right? Like, say, for instance, if you read verse 4, it says, "For he is the minister of God to thee for good." That's not talking about the government. How the hell could you say the U.S. government is a minister to us for good, but yet they're out here allowing same-sex marriage, they're out here allowing bestiality in certain of the 50 states. They're out here, let's see, what else is going on? Oh, they're allowing people to cross-dress. Like, let me give you an example. I was shocked last night. I was, scrolling on YouTube, for some new content. I came across a video talking about this gamer that I used to watch years ago. Like, say, for instance, there's a guy, I believe his channel was called Nick at Night, right? This guy was named Nick. And he used to do, like, live streams and record himself playing certain games. And I used to watch him, 5-6 years ago. But then I found out yesterday that, over the course of some months, this guy changed into, now he's a transformer. I literally seen this guy, because they showed a picture of him, and the guy literally transformed himself into a woman. And I believe he calls himself Nicole now. So thinking to myself, it's like, shit, really? That dude used to be a cool dude, right? That guy used to be a cool guy, man. Never in a million years could anybody convince me that this guy would, turn into a transformer. Never in a million years would I guess something like that. And lo and behold, that's what happened to him. So again, it's just shocking, but that's what's allowed out here in the United States, Mystery Babylon. You're allowed to do all these perverted things. People don't question it. But the funny thing is, things that the Bible does allow you to do, America does not allow you to do it. Like, say, for instance, the Bible says a man can have multiple wives. You're not allowed to do that in America, right? The government declared it's illegal to practice polygamy, aka the practice of a man having more than one wife. You're not allowed to do that in America. But the Bible says you're allowed to do it, though. And wait a second, doesn't America claim that it's a nation founded on the Bible? Don't they make you swear on the Bible when you go to court? But yet, of course, they throw the Bible to the side and then pull out their own book of rules. And I'm thinking, it's like, Jill, are you seriously not capable of seeing that government is completely corrupt and immoral? Are you seriously not intelligent enough to see the buffoonery here? And he was like, well, government, by and large, it's for good. Yeah, once in a while they might do bad things here or there, sure. But by and large, it's for good. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, dude, you literally know you're just contradicting yourself. Because the Bible says that this is the minister for good, but now you're calling the Bible a liar, because now you're saying, well, God's minister sometimes does bad things. That's basically what Jill is saying. So the government is God's minister to us for good, but sometimes that minister is caught doing bad things. Again, it's truly astonishing to me. It's truly astonishing to me, how ignorant the average person is. And Jill's a good example of that, right? He's just, a regular gullible Christian who just knows, he just repeats things because he hears it, and that's all he knows. Then he acts smart like he knows shit about something. It's truly astonishing. It's truly astonishing. And again, there's no lack of people like that. One thing I hate to see is sometimes I get recommended videos where, like, how, say for instance, if a police officer pulls over a person that is a lawyer or a person that studied in the law, these videos get millions of views. But I hate to listen to it because it's basically two baboons arguing back and forth about what a bunch of rich people wrote on a piece of paper and told them that they have to follow. It's like, seriously, both of you dumbasses, right? Both the police and the lawyer in the car. It's like, both of you dumbasses can't realize that you both are bickering back and forth about a couple scribbles that a bunch of rich men told you that you had to live by. It's like, are you dummies seriously not smart enough to see it? It's just made up. So you're literally, what they're doing is they're a bunch of kindergarteners saying, well, I saw this cartoon and the character said this, and then the other kid will be like, well, I saw the cartoon and the character said something different, and then they bicker back and forth about it for 2 hours. That's basically what these guys, these kidults, right? These kidults, inside joke, are doing. Well, this is the law. But then the lawyer's like, no, the law says this, the law says that. Then the officer's like, hey, I don't make the law, I just enforce it. It's like, seriously, you two dummies are not intelligent enough to figure out that you're just bickering back and forth with one another about a bunch of scribbles that rich, corrupt men that don't even care, they don't give a shit about you, made up and said, you obey this or we send our armed forces to hurt you. It's like, are you seriously not intelligent enough to see that? Seriously? Come on. It's just astonishing. But the problem is, people were raised with this belief that, there's a concept called law, and, you have an obligation to obey that law. But yet, what you're not taught is, well, wait a second, well, what is law exactly? Like, who determines what is the law or not? Because first of all, what the law basically is a group of people that are called lawmakers, and they can argue back and forth about, with one another about certain ideas and ideologies, and if a bunch of them agree to it, they can write a bill and send it off to the president. He signs a signature on it, and now from that point, it's now considered to be the law. Like, say for instance, right? I'll give you a great example of this, and it shows the hypocrisy of the average person. I remember back in bear with me a second. I remember back in 2017 or 2018, you could legally go to the gas station or Walmart and you can buy tobacco products when you're 18. But then in like 2019, Trump signed a law that says now you have to be 21 to purchase tobacco products. So here's the hypocrisy though. So in 2018, it was perfectly fine for an 18-year-old to go and buy a pack of cigarettes. But then magically in 2019, now it magically is not okay for the same person to do the same thing they did the year prior. And everybody has nothing to say about that. They're just, oh, well, I obey the law, right? I'm a good person. I obey the law. It's like, well, seriously, are you not intelligent enough to figure out that the law is actually wrong and corrupt? Like, are you really that much of a buffoon that you can't realize the hypocrisy that here it is, you're now criticizing a person that tries to smoke at 19 today, but yet you would not have any problem about it 5 years ago. But magically, since we're 5 years later and the law says it's now 21, if a 19-year-old tries to smoke, well, he's just being a bad kid. He's just trying to be a bad, irresponsible kid to smoke. But yet magically the same person 5 years ago, they would be like, oh, if an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old wants to smoke, hey, well, they're an adult, they're able to make their own decisions. But now magically 5 years later, that same person that it was okay if they smoked 5 years ago, now all of a sudden, oh, well, they're just an immature, irresponsible person to try to smoke when it's illegal for them to do so. It's like, seriously, this is just astonishing. But again, this is a clear example of the brainwashing that the U.S. government has done on the population, whereas 5 years ago, everybody would not have bat an eye at a 18-year-old buying a pack of cigarettes. But yet, magically now today, that person's considered to be a bad person for doing the same thing it was okay for them to do years ago. It just shows that the American people are a bunch of gullible simps, and they will believe anything that they are told. Right? Whatever the government tells them, hey, I obey what I'm told because the U.S. government is for the people and by the people. It's like, dumbass, you really are not intelligent enough to see that those people over there stealing your money, they don't represent you? Are you really not intelligent enough to figure that out, that they're stealing from you and they just tell you, well, we represent you? And then your dumbass is like, oh, okay, oh, okay. Yeah, even though you steal money out of my paycheck, oh, okay, you're representing me? Okay, good. God bless America. And then they're like, government's like, yeah, we represent you. Just remember to fly your American flag on the 4th. Again, it's like, seriously, this is just, it's astonishing to me. It's just astonishing, the level of ignorance and hypocrisy of the average person out here. And it's a true statement, because I hear people say around the world, oh, Americans are stupid people. And they're right. They're right on that. One thing I can say that demonstrates it, and of course you do have some smart people in America, of course, but by and large the population is gullible, overweight, and retarded. Right, by and large. One way I can demonstrate this is I was watching a late night show one time, right, where they go around on the street and ask people certain questions. And this one night they were asking people, questions that have to do with American history. Say, for instance, or, basic questions as well. Say, for instance, they'll ask people, well, who created the first American flag? People didn't know, right? Of course, the real answer is Betsy Ross created the American flag, right? The first flag. People didn't know that, right? Only like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 got it right. And that's even being generous, right? Say, for instance, they ask, well, who was America named after? The true answer is America was named after an explorer named Amerigo Vespucci. That's who America was named after. Most people didn't get that wrong. Most people didn't get that right, excuse me. Most people didn't know that. Believe it or not, even the question, well, who was the first president of the United States? Obviously, the answer is George Washington. But believe it or not, some people got that wrong. Some people got that wrong. Like, wow, seriously? You guys didn't know that? But here's the kicker, though. This is funny. Then they asked him, well, how many states make up America? How many states are part of the United States? Believe it or not, some people didn't even know that there's 50 states. Like, some dude said like 25 states. Somebody said 42 states. Most people guessed it right, but some dummies got that wrong. It's like, wow, seriously? Another one, how many colonies did America start with? Some dumbasses got that wrong too. Right? There's 13 colonies. Some people said 6 colonies. Again, it's just astonishing. But this is the mindset that people are on out here. They go around and say, oh, I can't hear you over the sound of my American freedom, but yet the same dumbass doesn't even know the history of his own country. One time I was overhearing a conversation that some people were having about the 1619 slavery, in the United States, up until it got abolished in the 1800s. And they were saying, well, I don't want my kid to learn about, the cattle slavery that happened in America, right? I don't want my daughter to learn about that in school. I think they should remove that from the textbooks. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's like, wow, really? So you want them to lie about your country's history to your child and not tell them how the country was actually founded just so you can feel good about yourself? It's like, seriously? But yet the same person would not have any problem with the school textbooks speaking about, say, for instance, the war in Iraq, or any of the other like what happened to Japan in World War II, right, when America dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? They don't care about that being in the book or not, right? That's allowed, the 100,000 plus people who died in those attacks. That's perfectly fine to have in the books, right? The first time a atomic weapon was used in war, that's perfectly fine to leave in the school books. However, we gotta remove the part of the school book that talks about the the slaves being brought to the United States and put into slavery. We gotta remove that from the books, though. Again, it's what you call hypocrisy, right? It's hypocrisy, But this is the mind that the average person has out here. They're not capable of logically thinking for themselves. Most of these dummies out here, they brag about their education, right? They brag about going to school, getting degrees, graduating high school. They think that's actually like a good thing. And why it's true that you need to have those in order to, um, get a good career in the society. But the truth is, you didn't actually learn very much. They actually indoctrinated you, is what they did in those years of schooling that you went to. For instance, they taught you that, what's an example I could use? That the sun is 93 million miles from the earth. They taught you all these facts about, all these stars are, trillions of light years away, and all this bullshit. And their gullible ass just goes around and repeats it without question. Well, it must be in the school textbook, so it's true. It's like, well, really? It's like, don't you think that maybe they could lie to you about something? And then the same dumbass will be like, well, I reject the Bible because, 2,000-year-old storybook, that's not true. But yet the same dumbass will turn around and say, hey, well, I went to school and, hey, I studied the school textbooks. All looks good to me. It's like, really? So your dumbass is sitting there rejecting the Bible, but yet your dumbass is sitting there believing everything you learned in the school textbook, which came from the U.S. government, which, by the way, is there to make you a tax slave. It's like, seriously? Are you not intelligent enough to see the hypocrisy here? Astounding. But anyway, I don't want to, ramble on for too long. I think I made the point clear. If anybody made it to the end of the video, put #flag, and I'm going to say shalom.